I couldn't hear anything from his headset, but it looked like the main event was about to happen. He radioed a standby to the other units, which had spread out around the property, and then gave me that gallows humor grin of his. "You ready for coitus interruptus?" "As I'll ever be," I said. "Here we go then. Should be a gas." He went back to his headset and counted off. "All units on the ready. Don't hurt anybody. Don't get hurt." A few seconds later, SWAT was out of the woods with the rest of us just behind, sprinting toward the impressive house of ill repute. Chapter 45. An expensive-looking walnut front door splintered and then gave way. SWAT was inside with no difficulty. I had my Glock out, hoping I wouldn't have to use it. The last time Ned and I had worked together, we'd both been shot. Not this time, I hoped. This was white-collar crime, wasn't it? As soon as we got the all-clear from SWAT, Ned left 2 men at the door, then led everyone else inside. My first impression was just, well, money. The foyer was 3 stories high, with a checkerboard marble floor and huge chandeliers dangling like outrageous jewels overhead. The furniture was gleaming antiques, and there was something odd about the light. It looked like gold in here. The second impression I got was of stunningly beautiful women. A lot of them. Some in evening gowns, others in various stages of undress. 3 were naked and not being very shy about it. Hands on their hips, like we just busted into an apartment they all shared. The escorts, expensive ones, from clean-cut all-American to exotic Far Eastern. I moved through the foyer and turned right, past another agent shuttling 2 dark-skinned men speaking Arabic and a tall black woman toward the front. All 3 were naked, and they were cursing out the agents as if they were household help. I passed open, empty parlors on either side, then came to a glass-walled smoking room at the end of the house. It stank of cigars and sex, but nobody was inside at the moment. When I doubled back, I could hear shouting from near the entrance. Somebody was objecting to our presence, and loudly.
"Get your hands off me! Don't touch me, you wanker!"
A tall blond man with an English accent was attempting to come down the big main staircase while 2 FBI agents held him back.
"This is an illegal search, goddammit!"
The Englishman had some spine. I could see that much. They finally had to put him down on the marble landing just to get a zip tie around his wrists. I took the stairs 2 at a time, to where Mahoney was trying to question the guy. "Are you in charge here? You're Nicholson, right?"
"Piss off! I've already called my attorney. You're trespassing, every one of you."
He was well over 6 feet and didn't seem to be losing steam.
"You're breaking the law just being here. This is private property. God damn it, let me up. This is an outrage. This is a private party in a private house."
"Keep him separated from the others," Mahoney told the agents. "I don't want Mr. Nicholson talking to anyone else." We quickly established a couple of holding areas on the first floor and started working through the house, cutting the paying customers off from the staff, taking names as best we could.
"Yes, my name is Nicholson. Very soon, you won't be able to forget it,"
I heard from one of the rooms.
"Nicholson, like the moving picture star."
Chapter 46. It was as bizarre a raid as I'd seen since I'd been on the force. Pretty funny, actually, if you have a sense of humor like mine. We pulled one joker out of a concrete block room, where he was still manacled to the wall in his thong underwear, presumably ditched there by his dominatrix. In fact, most of the people I saw were in one state of undress or another. Completely naked, satin underwear, skimpy see-through robes, and one soaking wet couple in towels, including turbans, the male smoking a cigar. The men were a mix of Saudi and American. From what I gleaned, one was a billionaire by the name of Al-Hamad. He was having a birthday party that night, and a very happy 50th to you, one you won't forget. We kept the English manager, if that's what he was, in a small study downstairs. By the time I got back to him, he'd settled into a stubborn silence. When I asked about the bruise on his cheek, Mahoney told me he'd taken to spitting at the arresting officer. Never a good idea. I stood in the doorway, watching him sulk on an antique settee, surrounded by high shelves of books I couldn't imagine anyone had ever read. He was obviously a nasty son of a bitch, and presumably a pimp. But was he also a killer? And why was he acting so arrogant about the raid? His lawyer got there less than an hour later, wearing suspenders and a bow tie in the middle of the night. If I'd seen him on the street, I'd never have expected he was tied into something like this. He was Dilbert, minus the pocket protector. Unfortunately, his paperwork was very good. "What's this?" Mahoney asked, as the lawyer handed it over to him. "Motion to quash. As of this moment, your ex parte is void, and this raid is illegal. My client will generously allow you 5 minutes to clear out. After that, we're looking at contempt of court and criminal trespassing." Mahoney did a slow double take between the lawyer's little bug eyes and the motion to quash. Whatever he saw seemed to have the intended effect. He dropped the pages to the floor and walked away as they fluttered. Then I heard him shouting orders and shutting everyone down, the entire raid. I picked up the motion and started scanning. "Who the hell's your judge at 1 a.m? I asked the lawyer. He actually reached up and flipped the page for me, pointed. "The Honorable Lawrence Gibson." Of course, I thought. Senators, congressmen, billionaires for clients. Why not a judge? Part 3. With or Without You. Chapter 47. I got home early Sunday morning, somewhere between the newspaper delivery trucks and the overzealous joggers heading to the park. Whoa, what was this? I found Nana on the sun porch, fast asleep in one of the wicker chairs. Other than her ancient pink terry slippers, she was already dressed for church in a gray flannel skirt and white sweater set. This would be Nana's first service since the hospital visit, and the whole family was going. I put a hand on her shoulder and she woke with a shrug. All it took was one quick look at my face. "Bad night?" she asked. I flopped down on the love seat across from her. Am I that obvious all the time? Only to the initiated. All right, tell me what happened. Talk to me. If this were any other case, I would have pleaded exhaustion, but Nana deserved to know about it. Still, I kept the details down to a PG rating. There was no need to overemphasize the dark side of Caroline's life. Nana knew, I was sure. She always seemed to, somehow. By the time I got to the part about the geeky lawyer with the motion to quash, I started getting worked up all over again. I'd just wasted a whole night, and I'd run out on Ali and Janny to do it. I think Janny has that pouting cold shoulder thing down pat, though, I said. How were they after I left? Oh, you know, they'll survive, she said, but then added, assuming that's all you need them to do. It was like a pat on the head and a smack on the cheek at the same time. Pure Nana Mama. So that was your twin sister waving me out the door last night, telling me it was all good. See, I could have sworn it was you. Now, don't get defensive on me, Alex. She sat up a little straighter and cricked her neck, massaging it on one side. I'm just saying, the children don't always care why you're gone, Alex. They just know that you are, especially little Damon. You mean Ali? That's what I said, isn't it? The boy's only 6 after all. I leaned in for a better look at her. How much sleep did you get last night? She made her psh sound. Old people don't need sleep. It's one of the secret advantages. Reason I can still whip you in a debate. Now help me up, and I'll start some coffee. You look like you could use it. I had a hand on her elbow, and she was halfway up when she stopped suddenly and sagged a little. "What is it?" I asked.
"Nothing. I just...
At first, she looked confused. Then all at once, her face creased with pain and she doubled over in my arms. Before I could even get her back down again, she'd passed out. Oh, God, no. Her small body was like nothing to hold in my arms. I laid her gently on the love seat and felt for a pulse at her neck. There was none. "Nana, can you hear me? Nana!" My heart was flying now. The doctors at St. Anthony's had told me the signs to look for. No movement, no breath, and she just lay there, horribly still. Nana was in cardiac arrest. Chapter 48. It was another nightmare. The EMTs in the house, the blur of the ambulance ride, questions at the emergency room, then the terrible waiting. I stayed with Nana all day and all night at St. Anthony's. She'd survived the heart attack, which was about as much as anyone would say for now. They had her on a ventilator to help her breathe, with a tube taped over her mouth. There was a clip on her finger to measure her oxygen level, and an IV to keep the medications coming. More wires ran from Nana's chest to a heart monitor by the bed, its pulsing lines like some kind of electronic vigil. I hated that screen and relied on it at the same time. Friends and relatives came and went all day and into the evening. Aunt Tia was there with some of my cousins, and then Samson and Billy. Bree brought the kids, but they weren't allowed in, which was just as well. They'd seen more than enough at home when the ambulance had come and taken Nana away. And then there were the necessary conversations. Different staff members wanted to talk to me about the DNR order in her file, about options regarding hospice, about religious affiliation, all just in case. Just in case what? Nana never woke up? No one tried to chase me out after visiting hours, as if they could, but I appreciated the consideration. I sat with my forearms on the edge of the bed, sometimes to rest my head, other times to pray for Nana. Then sometime in the middle of the night, she finally stirred. Her hand moved under the blanket, and it was like all those prayers of ours were answered in that one small motion, and then another tiny motion, and her eyes slowly opened. The nurse had said that I should stay calm and speak quietly if that happened. For the record, it was no easy feat. I reached up and put a hand on her cheek until she seemed to know I was there. "Nana, don't try to say anything right now. Don't try to argue either. There's a tube in your throat to help you breathe." Her eyes started moving around, taking it all in, staring at my face. "You collapsed at home, remember?" She nodded, but just barely. I think she smiled, too, which felt huge. "I'm going to ring for the nurse and see how soon we can get you off this machine," I said. "Okay?" I reached for the call button, but when I looked back, her eyes had closed again. I had to check the monitor just to reassure myself she was only sleeping. All the yellow, blue, and green lines were doing their thing, just fine. "Okay, tomorrow morning, then," I said, not because she could hear me, but because I needed to say something. I only hoped there would be a tomorrow morning. Chapter 49. Nana was wide awake and off the ventilator by noon the following day. Her heart was enlarged and she was too weak to leave intensive care, but there was good reason to believe she'd be coming home again. I celebrated by sneaking the kids into the room for the quickest, quietest cross-family party ever. The other hopeful news was on the work front. An FBI lawyer named Linda Cole had established probable cause and gotten the Bureau back on the property out in Virginia. By the time I reached Ned Mahoney on his cell, the FBI had a full evidence response team on site. Bree spelled me at the hospital. Aunt Tia would spell Bree later.